So I'm just delighted to introduce our speaker this morning, Dr. Sylvester Sullivan. He's a retired U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer with 28 years of military service, including deployments during Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, and the Global War on Terror. He served in both the Pacific and Atlantic fleets, visiting dozens of countries and experiencing hundreds of cultures, an experience that continues to shape his grounded global perspective. And after retiring, Dr. Sullivan served as a federal civilian employee supporting military transition, and now he works as both a school-based and outpatient mental health therapist with Stein Counseling. And he also serves as a commissioner on the La Crosse County Veterans Service Commission. And we were delighted, the Sunday Service and Music team, when he joined us in January to be part of our team. Yay. He lives in Onalaska, Wisconsin, with his wife, Teresa, and with his daughter, Madison, and their ragdoll kitten, Astro. He brings leadership, empathy, and lived wisdom to every room he enters. Slide.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning and see all of your smiling faces. It's an honor and a privilege. Before we begin, I want to offer a simple invitation to take what serves your spirit and let the rest be what it is. You might hear me reference a source, speak a truth from memory, or name something that stirs a feeling. I'm not doing that to elevate one story or resource over another, but to open a door just wide enough for something sacred to slip through. And if that door opens for you today, even just a little bit, follow it gently. No pressure, just presence. There's a song some of you might know, Just My Imagination, Running Away With Me by The Temptations. It's a beautiful, aching kind of song. Eddie Kendricks, who was the lead singer, sings about a life, a love, a future that never was. And he holds it so clearly in his mind, it feels real until he wakes up and it's gone. I remember hearing that song as a kid and thinking, imagination sucks. To see something so clear that disappears so fast, why even bother? But now, when the song plays, I hear it differently. Because imagination isn't the thing that runs away. It's the thing that returns again and again when we've forgotten how to dream, how to hope. Imagination is sacred, not because it hides us, but because it finds us. Not because it runs, but because it returns. Imagination is not escape. Imagination is arrival. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to believe that imagination is something we outgrow, that it's cute when you're young and naive, but once real life kicks in, we convince ourselves imagination is a waste of time. But what if that's a lie we've repeated so many times, we've started to believe it's true? What if imagination is exactly what we need right here, right now? What if the first sacred act of reclaiming what's real is imagining something new? Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but today. And not out there, but in here, in you and in me. Imagination isn't a disruption. It's how we survive what hasn't been changed yet. It gives us the room to breathe when the world feels like it's suffocating us. Imagination helps us see what's hidden and speak what's been held in silence. And sometimes, especially in hard times, believing in what could be, the possibilities, is the most committed thing we can do, not just for ourselves, but for others. Every bold move begins with something or someone brave enough to imagine first. Imagination is a sacred act of resistance and of renewal, not because it helps us escape reality, but it helps us reshape it. It's the vital spark of every revolution, every act of healing, every sacred beginning. It stretches the edges of what we believe is possible and who we believe we can become. And in this upside down world, and you know what I'm talking about, having the audacity to imagine is a necessary form of spiritual courage, is a necessary form of spiritual courage. The world we live in, it doesn't exactly reward imagination. It rewards efficiency, it rewards obedience, it rewards certainty. Imagination, that's seen as a luxury, or worse, a liability. But that mindset, that narrow, rigid way of thinking keeps us stuck, surviving, reacting, shrinking into a prefabricated frame that we've outgrown a long time ago. So when the world feels tight, rigid, and closing in, imagination actually becomes a way to breathe again. Not a soft escape, but a tried and true path towards something more spacious, something more forgiving, something that feels like home. Maybe you stopped imagining because it started to feel foolish. Or maybe life just got too loud, too heavy, too crowded with the practical. But somewhere inside you, that part still dreams. It's still alive. And today, I want to invite that part of you to come back to the surface, or as we say in the military, front and center. Because our world doesn't need just your plans, your energy. It needs your wonder, your dreams, your hope. Our world needs your imagination front and center. You don't have to rush it. Just meet yourself where you are. Take a breath, not just in body, but in spirit. Exhale and let whatever's been weighing you down drop, just for a moment. Because this is a space where you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to fix or prove or perform anything here. Just bring your honest self and make room for wonder, for dreams, for hope. Most of us have lived through seasons when imagining anything better felt impossible. When the grind of survival mode dulled our sense of wonder and drained our hope. And yet, even in those moments, something in us kept coming back again and again, quietly. That flicker, that was imagination, still alive, still waiting for us to return to it, front and center. Not as a fantasy, but as a quiet refusal to give up on the possibility of what could be. It's hard to admit when we've stopped dreaming. Not because we don't care, but because caring started to hurt. We get tired of disappointment, tired of false starts, tired of hoping for more and not getting anywhere. One step forward, two steps back. So we stop reaching, not out of apathy, but out of self-protection. And still, even in those moments, something inside us quietly misses the reaching. Imagination asks us to be vulnerable and open to a future that's not guaranteed. And that kind of vulnerability can feel like standing naked in the openness of the unknown. It's easier to stay closed off and guarded, expect nothing, dream of nothing, need nothing. But the cost of never wondering, never dreaming, never hoping is a life spent only reacting. And that reaching, that quiet stretch we feel when we begin to imagine again, that's sacred. And maybe we start to recognize that imagination isn't childish after all. Maybe it's one of the oldest, wisest parts of us, still reaching, still believing. Not in fantasy, but in the sacred truth that change is possible. That even if we don't know how yet, the reaching, the wanting itself is sacred. And that wanting, that quiet pull, is the next step in returning to the part of us where imagination still thrives. Imagination doesn't end with a single person. It echoes, it spreads, it builds. Imagination doesn't just belong to artists or the creatives. It belongs to communities. Every moment for justice, every moment of healing, every bold policy or protest began with someone imagining more. Too many of our systems keep us managing what is instead of dreaming about what could be. When we stop wondering, stop dreaming, and stop hoping together, we stop growing, we stop building, we stop becoming together. But when we imagine as a community, we become a living, breathing testimony of what's possible. Look around. This is what's possible. I think of Octavia Butler, an award-winning African-American writer of speculative fiction, crafting futures where her characters reshaped entire worlds through the power of vision. Her stories weren't escapism. They were blueprints, written in faith and fire. She didn't imagine what could be. She didn't just imagine what could be, She dared to name it. She dared to speak it. She dared to write it and offer it to the world unapologetically. And because she did, countless others learned to imagine themselves, including me, as present and whole. Her words remind us that imagination is a sacred act of resistance and renewal. But what if imagination wasn't a task, but a revered habit woven into our daily rhythm? Just a few quiet moments each day to ask, what else might be possible? We don't need all the answers, just the willingness to wonder, the willingness to dream, the willingness to hope. Even a single brave question can open a door where fear once stood. Because imagination, like any muscle, grows stronger the more we use it. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And what is imagination, if not an essential step in that search? Our tradition calls us to question. Our tradition calls us to reimagine. Our tradition calls us to believe new ways of being are always possible. Imagination is how we practice the truth that revelation is not sealed. Because in this faith, becoming is just as sacred as being. What if we gave ourselves and each other permission to imagine again, to dream out loud, even if the words and the voice that carries them tremble at first. Not because we know how to build a better world, but because we believe one is possible. And what if that belief becomes even more powerful when we hold it together? Because imagination isn't just personal, it's a necessary communal act of faith. That's how it begins, with a flicker that slowly comes into focus. You can feel it now, right? That quiet, steady pulse beneath all the noise. Imagination is not weak. Imagination is not childish. It's not fluff. Imagination is powerful. It's the centering, aligning breath of what comes next. It doesn't demand certainty, just the courage to see beyond what is. The world may not always welcome that kind of courage. We see examples of that every day. But your spirit knows how to carry it. And that knowing, that's more than enough to begin again. Front and center. Imagine a world, where we don't wait for permission to wonder, dream, or hope. Imagine a world where communities shape their future, not just make do with what's been handed to them. Imagine a world where children are taught to dream boldly and adults are reminded they still can. Imagine a world where love and justice aren't just reactions, but daily acts of courage. That world isn't a fantasy, it's the future. If we have the courage to imagine it together. It takes courage to imagine a different world when the current one demands our silence. To dream when others dismiss it as naive or unrealistic or soft. But imagination, when rooted in love, say that again, when rooted in love, has always been where change begins. And sometimes the hardest part isn't imagining, but holding on to that vision when everything around you says, let it go. So if you're scared and you're still imagining, then you're exactly who we need right now. When we dare to imagine together, something sacred begins to unfold. We start to build not just with bricks, but with belief, with vision, with hope. Imagination becomes a shared resource, a sacred trust we tend as a community. It calls us to co-create not just a better system, but a deeper kind of belonging. Feel it here. And in this sacred space, the impossible turns possible. The unseen becomes seen. The unreachable begins to reach back. So, on this blessed day, as we leave this sacred space, may you carry your imagination like a flame, fragile, yes, but fiercely lit. May you protect it. May you nurture it and dare to use it. You don't need a blueprint to begin. Just hope. Just wonder. Just the next brave thought. Let your imagination be your prayer. Let your imagination be your protest. Let your imagination be your offering. With love, may imagination guide your steps, guide your spirit, and stir something sacred inside of you, starting now. From my heart to yours, may what you imagine lead you toward what you become. Aho, Amen. Ashe. Shalom. Insha'Allah. Blessed be. So may it be. And so it is. Peace. Thank you.